Hey guys, it's Jules here. Welcome back. Today I'm doing a VR to Simon from the Hermit's Cave. He created a tag called My First Tarot. And I know I've spoken about my first tarot deck in previous videos, but I don't think I went into too much detail. So I thought I would elaborate a little more. Now, as a kid, I was always into fantastical, mystical stuff. I would pretend that I was a sorceress. I would make up my own magical spells. Even that young, I was into rocks and crystals. So it's no surprise that something like tarot would really appeal to me. And my first direct experience with tarot was when I was in grad school. So I was maybe 22 or 23. My roommate and I went to a local bookstore. It might have been like a shop with miscellaneous things. But anyway, in the back there was this woman seated at this little fold-out table, and she was a tarot reader. And my roommate decided to get a reading from her. And I thought that was so cool. And I opted not to get the reading, so I just kind of walked around the store and gave them their privacy. And when my roommate was finished, she told me about her reading, and from my recollection, I don't think she was really impressed by the reading, but it came to light that she owned a tarot deck and she was into tarot. Now, I don't get the impression, from what I remember, I don't think she was super hardcore into tarot. It was just a fun thing she liked to do. But back at the apartment, she showed me her deck, which was the Tarot Art Nouveau. And I thought it was gorgeous. And I really wanted to learn tarot. So I got the same deck off the internet. And I also bought this book, How to Read the Tarot by Sylvia Abraham. And I just remembered last night that there was another book that I also bought. I can't remember for the life of me what that book was. I feel like it was black, it had a black cover, and I was trying to Google it. And honestly, it kind of looked like an old Mythic Tarot guidebook, but I can't believe that I would have had a copy of the Mythic Tarot. So I have to do more research on when the Mythic Tarot was first published, because I do know that that book also came with a reading cloth that had the Celtic cross imprinted on the reading cloth, but I don't recall a deck. So I'm thinking it was just a book and a reading cloth. Anyway, so had the Tarot Art Nouveau, I had this book, I had that other book, and this book uses RWS as a reference, but I was not at all a fan of RWS. I had my beautiful Art Nouveau deck, and so I tried to learn off that deck. And that, in my opinion, is not a beginner deck at all. Too many of the images look alike. Some of the meanings are a little bit of a deviation from the standard RWS. So that was not a good deck for me to learn with. And then on top of that, I was pretty lazy about learning and impatient. I didn't really read through this book or the other book probably all that carefully. I didn't read it cover to cover. I just kind of skipped through. One thing that I did pick up from this book was that the Celtic cross was the spread that I was supposed to practice with. And I remember it even said, yes, it says here, begin with a short spread, the Celtic cross, to give you the confidence you need to then progress to a longer one. So, which I think is kind of ridiculous advice, but I took that to mean, okay, the Celtic cross is the standard spread that I need to practice with. My reading cloth has the Celtic cross imprinted on it, so I know where to lay the cards. And so that's what I use to do my readings every single time. I use the Celtic cross, with the Tarot Art Nouveau, I relied so heavily on these meanings in the book, which just, I mean, I wasn't connecting the meanings in here with my deck. I was using the Celtic Cross, which is a long spread, in my opinion, to use. And I think that just really did me in. I just stopped. I was no longer interested. And obviously I kept this book. I kept the Art Nouveau deck, but I don't know what I did with that other black book or the reading cloth. But yeah, over the years, I had just the deck lying on my bookshelf and the book, and friends would spot it in my apartment, and so they would ask for readings, and I would literally give them the Celtic Cross, because that's all I knew, and just read from this book. So I don't even think that qualifies as a real reading. But it wasn't until 2017 that I took the tarot back up in earnest and really began a serious study. And I talk a little bit about this in my meditation video, but the rekindling of my interest was in large part because I wanted to see if tarot would make a good meditation tool. And then I think a smaller part was that maybe I was bored and jonesing for a new hobby to immerse myself in. So that's what sparked up my interest again. And I did not use the Tarot Art Nouveau. I knew I needed a different deck. So I didn't hang on to the Tarot Art Nouveau. I donated that deck because I didn't have any sentimental attachments to that deck. I felt no call to use it. And I didn't at that time know that there was such thing as tarot swapping groups, or I didn't know that that was a thing that people did, that they actually traded decks with each other. So I think I donated it, and I'm not regretful of it, because I just know it wasn't a deck that I would be interested in using again. Now, I am interested in having another Tarot Nouveau, because I think Art Nouveau is gorgeous, and I know there's the Tarot Muha, but the deal breaker for me up to this point has been that Judgment card. I just can't get past that Judgment card yet. And I know there is also the Ethereal Visions Tarot, which is Nouveau based, but I don't like that one nearly as much as the Tarot Muha. I mean, I did go back and forth on it because it's pretty, but ultimately I like the Tarot Muha, except for that Judgment card. So we'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind. But until then, I have a lot of decks to keep me occupied and to keep me happy. So Tarot Art Nouveau, that was my very first deck. Thank you to Simon for this fun tag. I have seen a few VRs and I look forward to watching more. Also, please comment down below and let me know what your first tarot deck was. Hey guys, back again. Sorry about the bad lighting, but I just had to pop on to tell you. Okay, so I just got out of the shower after filming the VR to Simon's tag, and I was compelled to do more digging on that black book I was telling you about, the one that looked like an older version of the Mythic Tarot Guidebook. But how could that possibly be? Because I never owned the Mythic Tarot. Turns out I owned the Mythic Tarot. I found a picture of the deck, the guidebook, and the reading cloth. And I am absolutely shocked. I want to curl into fetal position. I have no idea how I could have forgotten that I had that deck, but I must have had it because I do recall buying everything new. So that deck must have come with the guidebook and the reading cloth. Why do I have no recollection of it? But anyway, mystery solved. Have a good evening. I'm going to cry in that little corner over there. Good night.